The Philippine Navy has been tapped to provide technology and manpower to help locate the remains of the disappeared sabungeros. Let's get more details on the Navy's plans for this. And we have on the show Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. Good evening to you, Rear Admiral. Welcome to the big story.
Yes, good evening, Seth, Pauline, and Sean. Ladies, good evening.
Are you ready for tomorrow's search?
Yes, the Philippine Navy has always been ready to assist other government agencies, especially when it comes to deep diving or subsurface requirements. And our deep diving teams, our technical diving teams, are on standby if and when needed.
This will begin tomorrow, if we understand it correctly. Is that right, Admiral?
As of now, ladies, the teams are ready. We have 3 teams on standby already at the headquarters of the Special Operations Command. When the request is received and the orders are given, the directives are given, they will proceed to Taal.
Explain to us the complexity of the mission.
It's quite complex because, number one, this is considered as high-altitude diving. So the parameters for planning your dive will differ from diving at sea level. Secondly, you are looking for cadavers or the remains of it. Usually, the water is quite murky because of all the lahar, the ash from the volcano. What we usually do here is we first send drones, special drones underwater, to be able to scan the bottom of the lake. And if we see anything, there are mechanisms that we could attach to be able to retrieve some pieces of equipment or cargo or cadavers underwater. And this is always the first option. Rather than send a diver, if we could retrieve them using the equipment that we have, airbags and all the attachments, and we will do it that way.
Have drones been sent out today, or what was done today?
Today, the teams have been organized since last week when we got word that they may be requested, they may be asked to help. So we have 8 different teams all over the country. 3 have been on standby at our headquarters, and upon signal, they will proceed. The drones mentioned, we usually send this, especially when the water is murky. So it's always the last option to send a diver, especially if the environment is dangerous or risky for them.
So were the drones sent out today?
Not yet. We're still waiting for the directive.
I see.
For assistance.
Rear Admiral, today, Justice ASEC, Miko Clavano, was very clear that it's an assessment day to get the lay of the land. There's some sort of mapping going on. In terms of that, because we've heard how deep the lake is, have you isolated the search area? And in that specific area where you suspect and where you will start your search, gaano po kalalim exactly? Do we at least have the number for that?
Yes, our technical diving teams could go up to 100 meters, so with our tethered drones up to 120 meters. Now, depending on the area given, the average depth of Taal would be, I think, 105 to 110 meters. So it's within range of our capability, our equipment. We still have to go to know the exact spot, and the moment we will, it's not an easy job. I mean, it's murky, it's dark, underwater current, the surface conditions will make it challenging. But we have done this before. We have retrieved bodies, yung ating mga tropa, kasama ito pag-retrieve kay Secretary Robredo back then nung nag-crash sa may Bicol region. Also sa mga lumubog na mga barko natin in Cebu and somewhere in Mindoro. Plus yung mga divers na nawawala sa may Batangas area. There are a lot of leisure divers na na-retrieve ng ating mga technical diving teams.
Sir, what exactly are you still hoping to find? Because it has been 4 years since the sabungeros went missing.
Yes, actually, ladies, this will depend on what the DOJ representatives will tell us what to look for. It's challenging because, again, the body will decompose, and usually the body after 24 hours, lulutang na yan because of all the gases inside. But after 4 years, probably only the skeletons will remain. So we'll see, depending on what will be the briefing given by the DOJ representatives.
Napaka-choppy rin po dyan, no, sa Taal Lake, Rear Admiral. Do you also have parang tide mapping? Baka sakaling natangay sila to a different part of the lake?
Yes, it's quite challenging, like what I mentioned, not only the surface conditions, but also the altitude. It's already considered high-altitude diving, so the parameters for computing your dive, for planning your dive, will differ.
So this means parang less weight, unlike in deep sea diving. Tama po ba?
When we compute for every 1,000 feet in elevation, we add 1 atmosphere. It's good as additional 32 meters of depth in our computation for the dive. It's quite technical, but our divers know how to compute their dive plan.
Okay. How is the visibility? Give us an idea of how murky it is. If a diver were to go down, how far can he see?
Depending on the depth of the water, it would range from 2 to 10 meters.
Okay. And if we're talking about equipment, no, of course, narinig na natin si DOJ Secretary, sumulat na raw sa Japan, Rear Admiral. But while we're waiting for those remotely operated vehicles to be sent here, ano po yung mga equipment na meron tayo? Nabanggit nyo may drone, pero do we have something like underwater lights, strobe lights, or spotlights?
Yes, these drones are equipped with cameras, with lights. They are tested. The power source is on top at the surface. They're controlled from the surface. We would need a support boats on the surface. Of course, communications and all the ancillary or support equipment. And then we will have to battle the conditions on the surface. That's why I mentioned earlier that the last option is to send the technical diver down. If we could do this using our equipment, then we will use our equipment. It's not easy. Again, 100 meters is quite deep already.
Having said that, kasi sinasabi tomorrow na raw magsisimula, kaya po ba? It sounds like a lot of preparation, a lot of computation from the divers, and even with the equipment.
Yes, the challenge actually here, ladies, is to bring the equipment there. But upon signal, the team could just proceed. The computation, they already have the dive computers. They know what to input. So they have been trained in this already.
Rear Admiral, what is the timeline for this mission? How long are you giving yourselves? And will you be working mostly in the morning? Gaano katagal po yung mga dive?
The timeline will depend on the requesting party. We are here to support them. So long as kailangan nila, then we will provide the support. How long, the duration, we could not say. Again, depending on the surface conditions, depending on the bottom conditions. If needed, we could pull out the other technical diving teams of the Philippine Navy all over the country. It will be on extended duration.
We're talking of how many, Rear Admiral?
A technical diving team is composed of 4 persons, 2 divers, 1 standby diver on the surface, and 1 dive supervisor. Initially, there are 3 technical diving teams on standby.
Okay.
We have more all over the country.
And they are currently at the headquarters or already close to the site, Taal Lake?
Yes, they're at the headquarters in Cavite City, Sangley Point. They have already been assembled. The equipment are there. And just a signal, the co-signal, and the orders, and they will proceed.
Okay, and you mentioned doon na the technical divers have had experience trying to retrieve yung mga nalunod sa mga capsized boats, etc. In your experience with those previous search and rescue or search and retrieval operations, Rear Admiral, kalat-kalat na po ba yung mga buto nung nahanap? Because I imagine hindi na siya buo, di ba? Unlike pagka under lupa lang.
My personal experience is retrieving cadavers, so buo pa ito. We have had our men retrieving passengers of the ship that sank in Cebu, I think 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Buo pa, pero yung iba doon, medyo pira-piraso na lang. And marine life, we usually, eat them, or crustaceans, mga alimango. So it's not a good sight, but it's our job to retrieve all of the bodies.
So you think may chance na buo pa kasi medyo nabanggit na nga rin, 4 years na, and medyo choppy talaga po yung Taal Lake?
Yes, usually, generally, this will just be the skeleton that remains. But again, there have been, maybe the medical legal people could give us more info on this. There have been some instances na after how many years, buo pa yung katawan. So we never know. But we expect na this will just be the skeleton that remains underwater.
We understand that because of the depth, oxidation may be absent, and hence bodies can still be intact. Is that correct, Rear Admiral?
Yes, that's correct again, ladies, but I will have to defer to the experts on that because their experience, underwater marine life, would usually feed on cadavers.
Well, Rear Admiral, there's also been unrest in Taal Volcano. Will that affect the mission in any way?
Yes, of course. That will be one of the factors to consider. And the number one objective there is always the safety of all the people involved, the divers and the surface tenders.
Okay, and again, just to compare the experiences of your technical divers before, kasi usually yung mga nabanggit ninyo ng mga operations sa tubig alat po yan or out at sea, but Taal is a freshwater lake already. So what do you expect would be the differences that you are preparing for?
Yes, the saltwater and freshwater, the difference is minimal when you do your dive plan. The greater challenge is the high altitude.
Okay.
All right. Well, we do thank you for your time, Rear Admiral Roy Trinidad of the Philippine Navy, and we wish the best for the 4 teams that you have assembled.